2018, the Oregon Health Authority's Healthy Teen Survey uncovered a startling reality in Oregon. Nearly half of all lesbian, gay, and bisexual 8th graders have contemplated suicide. Close to a quarter of lesbian, gay, or bisexual 8th graders have attempted suicide, and almost a third of transgender 8th graders have attempted suicide. These numbers are staggering and alarming, but each number also reflects a person. This bill is named after Addie Staub, a young girl who died by suicide in 2017, who struggled at her high school after coming out as transgender. And I want to thank her parents, Christine and Lon, for being here today to tell Addie's truth. And to help ensure that other parents do not have to go through the same tragedy and that more youth see a future for themselves. It's not easy to tell these truths, but it is so important so that we stop the increase of youth suicide in Oregon. On a personal note, I'll share that I wrote my first suicide note as a 4th grader, and suicidal ideation was a constant struggle for me for over 10 years, the entirety of my adolescence. As a young queer person with working class immigrant parents who knew nothing of my struggles, I had few places to turn, and I'm sorry. But in 6th grade, I wrote a short story for school which centered around suicide. And my teacher, Mr. Wolf, took me aside to say there was a policy at the school that whenever a student mentioned suicide, that they would make sure to check in with the principal and the student and just make sure that I was okay. And just having that conversation actually helped me feel seen. And knowing that there was someone out there in the world who knew that maybe things weren't as okay as I tried to pretend that they always were. And this is why schools need to have the right knowledge, tools, and resources to address concerns around youth suicide. And Basic Rights Oregon is advocating for Addie's Act to provide all school districts with a model policy, suicide prevention policy, based on national best practices that promote suicide prevention, intervention, and healing after suicide in the school community. The bill requires each school district to have a policy that addresses populations at higher risk for youth suicide, including LGBTQ youth, youth with disabilities, and foster youth. The amendment before you is the result of a collaboration with education stakeholders, and in particular, the Oregon School Board Association, to ensure that the policies also translate into living plans within each school district. We thank them for their collaboration and for the numerous partners who helped craft this bill, including suicide experts like Lines for Life, the Alliance to Prevent Suicide, as well as school counselors and administrators. While Addie's Act is absolutely necessary to ensure that all school districts have a policy and plan for suicide prevention, it is one piece of the solution. Our schools need more resources for student mental health supports. We strongly support legislative efforts to garner those resources for schools through other bills being considered by this committee and the Student Success Committee. For instance, you'll hear more today about the Student Safety Task Force proposal. We are especially encouraged by the focus on anti-bullying and suicide prevention work in this proposal. Basic Rights Oregon has also endorsed House Bill 2224, COSA's Student Social and Emotional Health and Development Fund, which makes an $85 million investment in the social, emotional, and mental health of our students by empowering districts to hire social workers, school counselors, nurses, and other professionals to work with kids and their families. There are other proposals as well, and we're heartened that this legislature is taking up these issues now because we don't have time to wait. For now, we ask you to start by passing Addie's Act so young people, no matter how they identify or who they love, see a future for themselves. Thank you.